All right, there you go. Nice to see you. Hi, everybody. We are back, kind of. When we say we're back, we're in Portugal, Lisbon. Beautiful country. It's unbelievable. We've been here for 2 days. We're broadcasting live from Portugal as a hotel room. Nice little backdrop. I feel like this is a better studio than the one I have at home. Anyway, we'll get into why we're in Portugal. We've got a lot of stuff to take care of today. Really appreciate everybody joining us. I know podcasts are few and far between. We're just kind of, it's like summer break. You know, when like Friends ends after like a 32 episode season, everybody's like, okay, we're taking a break for the summer. It's kind of what we're doing, but we're rejigging at the same time. And we're adding pieces and we're inviting people to join us. And there's a lot going on. And we're going to cover it. It kind of leans into why we're in Portugal and dealing with the things that we're dealing with here, which are fabulous things. When you own a media company and you want to do fabulous things, you just go fucking do fabulous things. So anyway, let's get to it. Please welcome to the program. Very happy to have him join us today. He's part of the Crier Media family, and he's launching a brand new podcast coming up in, whenever he wants, whenever we're done, whenever we decide it's ready to go, whenever we decide to hit the trigger. Please welcome to the program one of my favorite people, one of my favorite content people, one of my radio heroes. Please welcome Mr. Charles Adler, ladies and gentlemen.
Is it okay if I applaud, or I don't know what the rules are in Portugal. I mean, I'm like a fish out of water here. I've never even touched a basin. Well, no, that's not true. I've been everywhere. I've been everywhere.
Have you been to Portugal?
Probably. There's just, look, there are times in a person's life where they have no memory. So I've been told by people I trust that I've been in Portugal.
Okay.
It's the best I can do. No, I don't remember. Maybe we could spend some dough on, hypnosis and get me to recover memories of Portugal. I'm sure they're all good. If I don't remember what a place was like, I don't even remember being there. It was good. Very good.
There's so many people.
You were really good that night. Thank you.
There's so many people in radio, Charles, that are listening to you tell that story. And if you listen to Charles Adler ever, you're like, man, this guy keeps it tight. This guy is one of the greats. This guy would never party hard in Portugal and not remember the trip. But every guy in radio is going, oh, yeah, I got a whole bunch of those trips I don't remember. For me, it's Dublin like 10 times in a row. Right. No clue what happened when I was in Dublin.
But in the prehistory era, the pre-podcast era, which I think of as, the Flintstone era. So back in the days when I was with the Flintstones, I wasn't even allowed to allude to that kind of thing because the people who are very, 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 very uptight.
Yeah.
They say things like, Charles, if you allude to such experiences, or if you even imply that you had
a cocktail,
mood altering experiences, that's not being a good role model for children. I'm thinking, like, which children in which century?
And what children listen to your high test radio program? That's the question I have. So they're trying to get you to stop demeaning your audience. You're like, listen, 7-year-olds are going to hate it. Like, fuck, dude, I don't even know if 7-year-olds listen to my show.
One of the reasons I can't watch intermission on Hockey Night in Canada, let me do the Canadian, with all due respect, right? With all due respect to Ron McLean and all the great guys and people are involved in Hockey Night and all of that. One of the reasons I can't watch this stuff is because somebody is always saying, kids, watch this, kids, watch this, watch what he did here. Stop.
Oh, yeah, Don Cherry telling kids to be pugilists during every mission.
Whatever it is, I don't want to be called kids. I'm not a kid. I'm not a freaking kid. I'm not in kindergarten right now. Yeah. I'm just making the mistake of thinking that there's anything in between periods that is worth watching, right?
Yeah.
Where's the clicker? I mean, I'm always going, where's my stop with it? And it's not just the direct discussion about kids but so much of the discussion in these sports broadcasts, the filler part of it, so much of it is trying to educate me about the game of hockey. If I didn't know how to play hockey, if I didn't understand hockey, why the hell would I be watching this? I mean, seriously, do people who don't know anything about hockey watch hockey?
Generally speaking, no. Generally speaking, people that don't watch hockey in the playoffs, right? They might need an explainer in the playoffs, might be
Okay.
your team. But
Yeah.
to your point,
Yeah.
anybody that's going to sit through 60 minutes of a very fast sport, which is very technical, and like 60 minutes, you know how much time it takes us to watch things these days? Like, I don't even have 10 minutes, 10 minutes to watch something, 2 minutes max, because I'm like, I got Twitter brain. But you're going to spend 10 minutes watching a hockey game? 60 minutes, you probably know what's going on. Like, you can understand offsides and stuff like that. And I get what you're talking about. And it's funny because Don Cherry was one of those dudes who over-explained everything. And I think the reason why he over-explained everything, it was like, hey, listen, I gotta show these guys I'm relevant somehow. Like, I gotta show these guys that I know what I'm doing.
I did enjoy, like, I would say, many of his stories. And I'm always sitting there going, just tell me a story. Stop with the tutorial. If you're 8 years old and you're in hockey camp, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. Just tell me a story. And I would say this to a lot of communicators. And some people say, how dare you criticize, St. Don and, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. People can criticize me. I can criticize them. We all have a lot to learn. It doesn't matter how good we are. We can all grow. And I just wish that communicators would focus on telling me a story, because that's the only part of the human brain that is watching or listening to programming that is really tuned in. The moment you're into explaining and explaining and explaining, I'm gone. And when I say the audience is gone. The audience is not going to, some university hoping that somebody who has done a lot of research and published stuff and can't communicate worth a what is explaining and reading the old yellow notes, or reading from their computer now. And you got to somehow figure out what it is that this prof wants you to put in your paper, so that you can just, put in his feedback, whatever he's looking for, and work the system and blah, blah, blah. That's different. You're doing that because some opportunities may open up to you in life that wouldn't open up to you if you didn't have a decent GPA. We understand the system. But when I'm watching TV, I'm not trying to work the system. I'm just trying to stay stimulated. Yeah. And I just think when someone isn't telling stories, when someone is just being professorial, they're losing me. They're not doing themselves any favors.
Well, and you know what? I think it's maybe a good jumping off point. It's funny because we prepped this thing. We were talking earlier. We'll start talking about Portugal, and then we'll talk about. But fuck it, I'm just want to talk about whatever we're talking about now. Yeah. But you bring up a good point, and it's kind of it ties into, you launching a podcast, right? And the Charles Adler podcast is coming to Crier Media. I know we've been working hard on it. You've been working hard on it with your team and our team, and we're really excited to launch it. But I think that is the added advantage here, right? Like, when we talk about communicating with people in the way that we want to communicate with people, specifically in the podcast realm, you have a chance to tell a story, and you're one of the best storytellers in the world. So, it's funny because when we started doing these podcasts, I thought I had to get technical. Like, I remember when a year and a half ago, I was prepping my balls off, and I'm trying to, give people information as opposed to tell the story about the information. But it's kind of going back to the story that you told when you started, when you're talking about being in Portugal and you didn't remember being here and you weren't allowed to tell those stories on traditional medium. That's kind of the beauty of this space. What are you going to do with your podcast? Like, is it going to be, because you have the ability to do both. You're one of those few people that has the ability to explain the minutia. I know you're laughing at me because I'm blowing you up, but you explain the minutia, but you also have the ability to put the minutia into a story and be able to educate people that way.
Well, I'm only laughing, Dean, because I've been doing this since I'm a child. This has nothing to do with radio, nothing to do with podcasts. I've been, ever since I was a child, I guess I've been explaining or teaching with humor, with stories. That's just, the way it's always been. And I laugh because, to me, I feel it comes naturally. The old man, my beloved father, who I discuss from time to time because I'm with him all the time, and I don't want to ever say anything that would dishonor the family name. We've talked about that. Yeah, but, the old man, when I told him that I wanted to do radio, and I told him when I was, 14 or 15, he didn't take it seriously. And the reason he didn't take it seriously wasn't that he didn't think I'd be good at it. He thought I'd be great at it. He just didn't think there would be a challenge for me, because he thought that doing radio for me would just come naturally. He thought radio was about telling stories, and he felt that his kid was as good a storyteller as anyone. Mm-hmm. And he just didn't think I'd be challenged by it. So when I decided to actually get into radio and stay in radio for a few years, he was he was shocked. I mean, he really was shocked. He said, it's not heavy lifting for you. Now, of course, he's wrong about that in the sense that I do a great deal of reading, and most important, I do a great deal of thinking about what I'm reading. I do a great deal of talking to other people, and I do a great deal of thinking about what it is they're saying. So sometimes I think the reason it makes it look like I'm not working at all, and it makes it look natural and easy, and sometimes the way my father always thought of it is because people aren't seeing all of the prep that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And every now and then I talk about Johnny Carson, in my opinion, the greatest talk show host ever on many, many different levels. But Johnny Carson and his producer Freddie de Cordova, both of them felt that the only ad libs that they wanted to hear on the show, the only ad libs worth having were ad libs that were well rehearsed. Now, that doesn't mean that they rehearsed every single line that came out. There was a lot of spontaneity there. But in general, they knew exactly where they were going to go before they went there. And in terms of all the monologues that I've done, it doesn't matter that I'm not operating with a script, and I don't like to.
You don't do that? You don't write your stuff down?
No, I don't like to do that. I like to.
Now we're getting into the stuff that I like to talk about.
Okay, well that's fine. I mean, I'll talk about it. I'm not saying that I've never written out a monologue, but I'd say 99% of them are not written.
So hold it. The things, and if anybody knows Charles Adler, if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, Charles Adler is a radio royalty, and his rants and his monologues. I know you're laughing again, dude. His rants and his monologues.
I'm not great at taking a compliment. And
no, me neither.
I laugh them off. So
which is weird because we got into radio because we wanted to be complimented, and we can't take one in real life, but it's good. We can talk about it. But the monologues and the rants are legendary, Paul Harvey-esque in Canada. And that's my opinion, but whatever, everybody can share it. And you either like Charles or you don't. Hey, listen, we're not for everybody, friends.
No.
But you're telling me, and they would last 5, 7, 10 minutes. You're telling me that came off the top of your head?
No, it didn't. No.
Or did you organize it in your head?
I organized in my head. I would take walks. I would take drives. I would take showers. Have you ever met a communicator who took a shower? I took them. I wasn't as dirty as I sounded. Okay, Dean is not as dirty as he sounds. Okay, we do take showers, and we do some of our best thinking in the shower. And in the shower or on a drive or a walk, but generally in the shower, I would organize my thoughts. And then what you'd get on the air was clean. It was rinsed.
My mind is blown. Like I'm not at this stage of my life. How old are you, Charles? How old are you? 65?
I am now over the age of 59.
Okay, so you're over the age of 59. I'm 50. Yeah. I have to write everything down now. Like fucking everything. Pardon my language. I have to write everything down. And you still don't. You have that ability to organize in your head. You've got the ability to like schedule in your head. You've got the ability to say, okay, because if you're a radio guy, you're always looking for connective tissue, right? If you're a communicator, you're like, okay, what comes first? That topic. How do I get into this topic? And what's the connective tissue to that? And then how do I get to there? And I have to write that down. I got to roadmap that. I'm such a visual person. I've always been that way. And you're telling me you've never had to do that?
I write my tweets. I don't know if that works for you. When I tweet, I have to tap out my tweet on the keyboard. And as I say, I've written the odd monologue. I can't remember. I mean, I know I've written some. Sometimes what I write is I write a couple of notes.
Yeah.
Like I'll write asshole. Okay. Sometimes I'll write down. And I just write that word just to remember how I feel about a particular person that I want to discuss in a fair and balanced way. but I don't want the audience, because motivation matters.
Yeah.
I don't want the audience to think that I think highly of this person. I actually think they're the word I just used.
Asshole. Yeah.
And so tone is what's most important in any monologue. And so if I think a person is that word, okay, the AH word, if I think that's what they are, I sometimes will write that down for myself, because if I don't, and I meander, because that's what I do. I speak spontaneously, so therefore it's stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
If I just meander, I might say a whole lot of nice things about the person, which I may. Yeah. But I have to have that word, that AH word there, the asshole thing, to get me back to the central point. I mean, yes, most people have some good qualities, But what we need to focus on here is this quality that the person has, because that's what's getting in the way of the country. That's what's getting in the way of the world. That's what's getting in the way of democracy. And I don't like people who, whether they like it or not, whether it's well-intentioned or not, I don't like people who ruin democracy, who ruin Canada, who ruin America, ruin capitalism. We could talk about capitalism as long as you're okay with talking about the PGA and the LIV. Is that okay?
Did you see that announcement yet? Dude, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We put up a huge post about it for a lot of people. It was announced this week the PGA Tour merged with LIV Tour. LIV Tour was this upstart tour that was started by whitewashing, or they call sport washing, golf, and inviting a whole bunch of PGA Tour players over, giving them $100 million each and saying, hey, just play on this tour for a bit. And then the PGA shit their pants. And yesterday or 2 days ago, I believe, announced that they were going to merge with LIV Golf. And the knives are out for the PGA now because LIV Golf is funded by Saudi money, right?
Yes. So I call it LIV, not because not because I want to be silly. I realize it's LIV. That's how we're supposed to, but I call it because LIV stands for like it Voldemort. Like it Voldemort. Voldemort is a bad guy, right? He's a bad guy.
Dude in the Harry Potter
and I've been instructed, because it's the Saudi wealth fund, okay, the Saudi sovereign wealth fund. So it's Saudi money, it's Middle Eastern money, it's petrodollars, it's those petrodollars. This is a country that killed Khashoggi. This is a country that is linked to 9/11. All that. I take all of those things. I take murder and mass murder seriously. Okay, here's what I don't take seriously. I don't take seriously people who have been involved in capitalism all their life, pretending that there's something moral going on here. Capitalism is not about morality. Capital shifts from communities to communities, industries to industries with a keystroke. I am pro-capitalist for the very, very simple reason that capitalism is the fastest way to create the most amount of opportunities around the world. And some of those opportunities have been created in the United States, Canada, and around the world with petrodollars, with petrodollars emanating from Saudi Arabia, emanating sometimes from, yes, the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. So what I pay most attention to on a story like this is the hypocrisy in all of these sanctimonious, self-righteous people, some of whom are broadcasters, some of whom are podcasters, some of them are multi-billionaire sports tycoons and all the rest of it, and how they're pretending, because I really do think it's pretense, pretending that there is something wrong. There's something wrong here with the sacred PGA doing business with the people behind LIV. I can't go there, because I've never met anybody in business. And let's just talk about the upper end of business. I've never met anybody on Wall Street or Bay Street in real life that is sitting there saying, we can't take the Saudi money. Not going to happen. Can't do that. Can't go there. They say stuff like that on camera, but not in real life.
Well, you bring up a good point. And, we were talking about just today, we were talking about the merger of the PGA Tour. And one of the guys we were with, and obviously we're in Portugal, we launched this product with Benfica, courtesy of Clancy World. It's an NFT collection. There's a bunch of sports people here, right? And so a guy comes up to me, he's like, what do you think of the LIV Golf thing? Because he was on Crier Media and he was reading the thing. And I said, it's a little weird. And the reason why I said it's weird is because I said anybody that's super angry about all this Saudi money flooding the PGA Tour, or the PGA Tour doing business with that Saudi money, is probably a real golf fan. Like the kind of golf fan that gets on a plane filled with gasoline and oil and pays for it from Saudi Arabia, right, and drives to the airport in a car loaded with sweet, sweet black gold from Saudi Arabia, and they know it. They know it, and they don't say anything. They don't go and protest in front of the BP or the SO. Same thing with the government of Canada. Same thing with the government of the United States. Like, everybody is so selective about their outrage because they don't have any idea how capitalism works, and I'm 100% with you.
So we have a dollar that is somewhere between 74 cents and 78 cents most of the time.
It's like a course share.
Can you imagine, Dean Blundell, can you imagine how low the Canadian currency would be if it were not for Saudi Arabia? People think that's the craziest damn thing they ever heard. I know it sounds crazy, but our currency, because we are a petro country, whether we want to admit it or not. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
petrodollars are very important to us. It's our number one export, the oil gas.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to have the currency at the level we have it, and it's not as high as I'd like it to be, but that's a totally different conversation. But for our currency to be where it's at, it's really important that we export a lot. And so our major export is oil and gas. So it's important for us to export these fossil fuels.
Yes.
But the thermostat, okay, just for here's what controls the thermostat controls how hot or cold temperatures can be. The thermostat for the price of energy is in Saudi Arabia, whether we like it or not. If the Saudis want to make the price go up, they can, and they do. And if it weren't for Saudi Arabia, I don't know what the price of oil and gas would be. I can't give you an exact number, but it would be lower than it is right now. So I know this sounds horrible to a lot of people, this idea of being thankful to the Saudis for where the price of oil is for Canada, and so for the price of where the price of our currency is. I'm positive there are a lot of people who could be listening to this right now or watching who will push back, who will say that I'm selling snake oil. That's fine. I don't care. I expect that people who are cemented to their belief system will stay cemented. I'm not going to penetrate the cement. But I'm just talking to you, Dean, and I'm talking to anybody who's watching or listening to this. That while I'm not sitting here wanting to throw a parade for Saudi Arabia, that's not the point. The point is that people who are in the capitalist system, whether they're in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, or wherever, they understand how significant Saudi Arabia is. They do business with Saudi Arabia. And the reason they do business with Saudi Arabia isn't because they like the particular religious rituals and all of the other authoritarian business that goes around with Saudi Arabia, any of the negative publicity. They ignore all of that. Their eyes are on the prize. And in terms of capitalism in this world, let's just stay with that. Capitalism, the Saudis play capitalism better than anybody else. And the world of capital, off the air, they don't say this publicly, but in the world of capitalism, the Saudis are respected. And yes, everyone does business with them.
Oh, dude, absolutely everybody. I saw you on Jesperson this week. You and Ryan Jesperson, like a little Ryan Jesperson. I like the guy a lot. And this kind of touches one of the rings that you guys touched on in the podcast. We're talking about, I believe you were talking about whether or not you were woke, which is really incredible because you and I get accused of being woke all the time. And what goddamn universe is Charles Adler and Dean Blundell, both from Canada? When did that happen? I mean, of all the things, right? Of all the things.
But, yes, we weren't considered either politically correct, and we certainly weren't considered liberals. I hear this stuff.
No.
Dean, you're such a liberal. Chuck, you're liberal. Oh, really?
We're cucks, by the way. From? We're liberal cucks.
Cuck, liberal cucks.
You know yeah, that's what we do. But
stuck with a C.
Yeah, it is stuck with a C. But you're moving back according to the environment that we operate in digitally now, specifically online. You're moving back over, by the way, to the right, where you're saying, "Oh, well, I'm big into capitalism." No, and this is the thing, right? When we sit and talk about capitalism, we're actually talking about this as a whole, and we're also kind of communicating that, hey, listen, we're really aware of the fact that we do business with Saudi Arabia, but we don't like the fact that Saudi Arabia does the things they do, right? And there's a difference. There's a difference that not many people can understand, and which is the selective outrage portion. And I wanted to ask you about that.
We compartmentalize everything in life.
Yeah.
You spend time with certain people involved in certain activity. Sometimes it's sexual activity. Are you telling me? I don't care whether you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter to me who's listening to this. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that every time you have sex with someone, it's because you respect them? I mean, who believes that? Well, who honestly believes that? So we're not having sex with Saudi Arabia. We're doing business with Saudi Arabia. Is it because we respect them? Is it because we respect their politics, their rituals? No, it's got nothing to do with that. Yeah, but people
will say, Charles,
capital.
I know, but people will say, and we understand that, and our government understands that, and if it wasn't for Saudi Arabia, our government would be screwed. Canada would be in the toilet, right. And nobody understands that. But there is something there. Like, I feel gross talking about the fact that we do business with those guys because of all the bad PR, like all the murder,
No,
all
listen,
the beatings.
I'm ready to do the rest of this podcast from the shower right now. Okay, I feel filthy. I've never felt filthier.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I'm known for speaking from the heart, telling it like it is, like I honestly.
So what do you
think
say
about
to
it and
someone
feel
when
it.
they
So
say,
there
how
you
do
go.
you, what do you say to someone when they say, how do you separate the two? How do you separate capitalism from doing business? Because, it goes back to the Nazi dinner party thing, and I hate
Okay.
using that word, and I hate using it so lightly, and please
Sure.
forgive me. But the whole thing, hey, if there's a Nazi at the dinner party and there's 10 people there, that's a Nazi dinner party with 10 people. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
How do you slice that off when it comes to this subject? Because that's interesting to me, because
It's
we,
not
we have
difficult.
to
Yeah,
go ahead.
it's not.
Sorry.
I don't find it difficult at all. The reason I need to earn dollars is I need to earn dollars for the people who invest in me. I need for you, media tycoon Dean Blundell of Crier Media. I need for you to be successful. You want me to be successful. I want you to be successful. I am not going to let my mores about what the Saudis do get in the way. Now, I mean, in our case, to the best of my knowledge, this podcast is not subsidized in any way, shape,
Zero.
or form by the sovereign Saudi sovereign wealth fund. But
No.
I just when I'm involved in a conversation about this kind of thing, I have to ask myself whether or not I would also allow myself to get involved. So if the Saudis wanted to give us, I don't know, let's take a conservative number, $200 million.
That's a great number for this
conservative
agency.
number, 200.
Yes.
Okay, so if the Saudis wanted to fund Crier Media to the tune of $200 million, the question becomes: Will the Crier Media people, will Dean Blundell, will Charles Adler, with the other people involved in Crier Media, would we then focus on the things about Saudi Arabia that we absolutely despise? Or would we focus on the kinds of opportunities we could create for our fellow investors, for our viewers, our customers, our listeners? In other words, would we focus on our business and all of the people who benefit from our business, or would we focus on our natural, very natural attitudes about some of the things that Saudi Arabia is doing? And my guess is it would not be that difficult to take the $200 million.
Oh, and we agree. We're lockstep. Like if Saudi Arabia came up to me, let's say a sheikh came up and he's like, "Hey, listen, we really love what you do for whatever reason. We love ourselves some Charles Adler as well. Here's $200 million." And if I took that money and there was a press release saying that we had taken $200 million from the Saudi foreign fund, or the Saudi sovereign
wealth fund.
I
don't know why I know that name so well.
Because you're smart.
I just do.
Because you're really smart and you have lots of capacity. I don't, as we've established earlier, but I'd take it. I think everybody would take it. Everybody would take it. And you go do a great fucking job.
Everybody would take it. And I would just advise people.
I think you'd be an idiot not to.
If you hear people say, I wouldn't take it, they're liars. That's the easiest way you can figure out whether or not a business person is lying to you. I won't take Middle Eastern money. I won't take that. That's a lie. And when the moment someone says that, click it off just as fast as you click off someone on Hockey Night in Canada saying, "Are you watching, kids? This is a hockey stick, kids. This is a skate. This is a big guy. This is a guy with no conscience. My kind of guy. He's going to take out the other guy." Okay. Bye.
I feel like we need to get into a John Cherry conversation at some point.
Where's my Apple? Where's my Apple TV? This is why I pay for Apple.
Yeah, me too.
Netflix says they're going to charge me extra money because I got 16 people in the same pipe. Fine, I'll pay the money. Just don't make me watch some guy say, "Hey, this is a hockey skate."
Like I said, I feel like we've got a Don Cherry conversation coming soon in one of our podcasts. I think we're going to have to, because you touch on him a couple of times. It's like,
but they should have given him the Order of Canada. Okay,
yeah.
Let me just say. By the way, the other thing about this right wing, left wing thing. Okay, they want to call us lefties and liberals because we're not crazy about. Who are we not crazy? We're not crazy about Polyev. Okay, we weren't crazy about Danielle Smith. Well, you got to be a commie not to be crazy about Danielle Smith. Anyway, so here's the other thing. The other day with Jesperson, we got into the Bernardo story. Bernardo being moved from maximum to medium, and so we wanted to talk about that. And I guess we wanted to talk about Polyev putting this on Trudeau. I predicted that he would, and he did. He blamed Justin Trudeau. I mean, Justin Trudeau is micromanaging the correction service, and Justin Trudeau for some reason must want to make Paul Bernardo's life a little bit easier and move him to media. I mean, obviously, we don't need evidence. We just need to hate Justin to make that point. So I said that Pierre Poilievre would say it. I wanted to be wrong about that, but he did. But as far as Bernardo is concerned, when Ryan is setting up the conversation, naturally I say that, there is no justice in the Paul Bernardo story, not because he's being moved from maximum to medium. I can't stand that. But what I can't stand is that Paul Bernardo's alive. And the people who are very, very liberal and left-wing and whatever you want to call them, okay, they don't like it when I say things like that. But I'm for capital punishment under certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Paul Bernardo should have gotten hanged, lethal ejection, electric chair,
pushed off
shot,
a cliff.
Pushed off. Thelma and Louise, wait a second. I got a passenger for you. I got a paying customer. His name is Paul. I mean, I wanted this guy dead a long time ago. Now, seriously, if you're really woke,
yeah,
you can't just be woke. If you're really woke,
yeah, with a K.
If you're hard K woke, you're not allowed to say things like that. So the people who are hard K woke, they're hardwired, everything is sensitive, everything is correct. Those people go, Chuck, what happened to you? Nothing happened to me. I've wanted the man dead for decades now. I said it decades ago. I said it a decade ago. And I said it 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh, Chuck, we didn't think you were like that. I'm like that.
Yeah.
I just think of myself as a typical lad.
Yeah.
A typical North American lad. I want serial killers dead.
Yeah.
And if that's too controversial for some people, or they're too not sensitive, I don't wish to be sensitive to serial killers.
Yeah.
And I make no apology. But Chuck, he's a human being. He's not a human being. He's scum.
Yeah. Great point. And there's a guy on this podcast right now that got fired for making fun of a rapist, saying, "I hope he gets what he deserves in prison." And everybody's like, "That's too mean." And I'm like, hold it. Those are my values. I'm a big fan of street justice when it happens. Like, I'm a huge fan. I'm a big fan of prison justice when it matters. I'm a big fan of street justice when it matters. And that's the other thing, is like, you can't say those things anymore either, but that's who I am as well. And I think it's time we reclaim that stuff. Like, I was watching Tucker Carlson the other day. Did you see his show? You see his fucking, pardon my language, I shouldn't say it, his absolute kife, the garbage that I saw the other day. Did you watch any of it?
Well, yeah, I watched it, but let's just set this up.
Twitter show?
Carlson's a very smart guy. Carlson knows exactly what he's doing, knows how to push the buttons, and he knows. And I don't know how many views he precisely got, but it's in the tens of millions. They may say it's 50 million at some point. They may say 100 million, whatever it is, whatever the real number is. I don't really care. I just know that he does genuinely get numbers. He got more numbers at Fox than anybody else, and he got more Fox and more in cable news than anyone else. He knows what he's doing. But of course, he said things, because he always says things that are completely out of line. And just to put a number on it, for those of our friends who still believe in capitalism, Tucker Carlson's behavior cost Fox $800 million. And even though he was number one on Fox, no one was even close.
That was the bill. That was the bill
as a
for
property,
the lawsuits and all the other stuff.
Yeah. They still got rid of him. Now Rupert Murdoch didn't stop being a capitalist. Rupert Murdoch would not have gotten rid of Tucker Carlson unless he was, costing him.
Mm-hmm.
He was costing him. So I don't know whether he'll cost Elon Musk, because the rules are different. But Tucker Carlson pushed a lot of stuff that was not even close to true, with respect to the election, with respect to the insurrection in the Capitol, January 6th. I'm not going to rehash all of that. I think most people watching or listening to this know that. But last night, Tucker Carlson, on his Twitter show, said that Zelensky called him rat-like. Then he went beyond calling him rat-like. He said that he was a persecutor of Christians. Now, there's no way to nuance that.
Does that sound familiar?
If you're the first Jewish president of Ukraine, and you are compared to a rat, who persecutes Christians, that is, I have to say this. This is the Nazi dinner party business, okay? Who invited Goebbels to Twitter last night? Well, Tucker Carlson did, because painting Jews as rats, as vermin, is precisely what Goebbels did. That's precisely part of the big lie. Don't worry about killing these people. Don't worry about torturing them. Don't worry about gassing them. They're not real people. We've dehumanized them. We have turned them into vermin. And so what most people do with vermin, they get rid of vermin. And so there's no problem with getting rid of the German Jews, the British Jews, the French Jews, the Hungarian Jews, whatever. If you can get your hands on Jews, get rid of them, because they're pests. And they are a threat to Christianity. They're a threat to white people. They're a threat to German people. They're a threat. The point is, Tucker Carlson played that card. Now, do I believe that Tucker Carlson needs to play that card in order to make a good living for anyone he's working for? Of course I don't. But he likes to do that. He likes to push to that extra level. Why? Because he knows that people will criticize him for it.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows that when people criticize him, they publicize him. Now, some people would say that is a person who has no values at all. People can make up their own decisions, make up their own minds about Tucker Carlson. But am I willing to respect somebody who plays the Goebbels card? Not happening.
No. And again, wildly familiar. I just pulled this up as you were talking, where he's referring to Zelensky as a rat. And you talk about, what do you do with rats? You exterminate them. And then you think about the last time we saw a poster that had anything to do with that kind of language. It was in the 30s. And here you go. I mean, it was and is still a trope that exists. And don't tell me that wasn't a loose connection. Don't tell me he didn't know what he was doing last night, Charles. And I watched the clip. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it in time for the show, but I watched the clip, and he delivered this soliloquy, if you will, on what his thoughts were with no facts. And so the facts are that Russia blew up a dam in Crimea, and thousands of people are dead. Thousands, tens of thousands of people lost their home. It was a Russian-controlled dam. So Tucker Carlson legitimately painted it on that show. It was in the first segment, or the first segment that I watched of the show, using that trope, lying about who blew up the dam, and putting the blame on Zelensky. Now, the fact that it's on Twitter, the fact that it's readily available, the fact that he's on cable news, I mean, we can factor all those different things in. But when you listen to those tropes and you think about where we've been, and you consider who his boss is at Twitter, who's paying him, what do you make of it being like, oh, it's just Tucker got over his skis, or that's who he is? Or do you think that this is, because this is my conspiracy brain at work, Charles, I got one, it's right here. Or do you think that this is part of some plan? Do you think this is feeding into that weird little group of guys who seem to think fascism is a great deal?
I just think there are a number of people who don't like democracy. They don't like where democracy has gone, and they support people who disrespect and don't mind destroying democracy. And when you support Putin, as Tucker Carlson has consistently, supported Vladimir Putin. If you support Putin and you have people paying you who want you to support Putin, if that's the case, because I haven't made my a final decision on who Elon Musk is. I tend to believe that Elon Musk is probably just someone who wants to stir the pot as much as possible, create as much controversy as possible, turn himself into, one of the most interesting figures in history, which he's managing to do. I don't know that he has any ideology at all. I don't think of him as a right winger or left winger, but I do know this: he's giving Tucker Carlson a platform to do what he knows Tucker Carlson does. And one of the things he knows is Tucker Carlson promotes Vladimir Putin. Well, Vladimir Putin is, in my mind, right now, an unconvicted war criminal.
Mm-hmm.
There is no doubt in my mind that if they were able to get Vladimir Putin into The Hague at the ICC, where war criminals are tried, alleged war criminals are tried and convicted, that's where Vladimir Putin would be absolutely convicted, and he'd be spending the rest of his life in prison. How many people has he killed? I don't know. How many people has he flooded? I don't know. How many schools and hospitals have been bombed? I don't know. But I do know that people who gather evidence have gathered more than enough evidence to make the case that is prosecutable on Vladimir Putin to make him among the worst of all war criminals that have ever been tried at the international court. And so when Tucker Carlson or anybody else wants to play this really sick game of saying, well, you know, Putin's got some problems, but there's this Zelensky guy who's rat-like and persecutes Christians. He's the bad guy, not Vladimir Putin. And just because the mainstream media tells you that Vladimir Putin is the bad guy, that doesn't mean he is. As a matter of fact, the mainstream media lies all the time, and they're probably lying about Vladimir Putin. The mainstream media portrays Zelensky as some sort of Churchill, and he's not Churchill. Well, who is Churchill? Oh, Putin's Churchill. Putin's saving the world. I mean, it's just baloney. And then I guess the part of it that is the biggest baloney is the idea that Tucker has somehow discovered that the mainstream media lies. And part of his evidence is, I guess, that he lied on mainstream media. But now that he's not on mainstream media, now that he's on Twitter, all of a sudden, what he's no longer a liar and no longer telling the big one. And last night he told the biggest lie of all time, that Jews are vermin. Jews are vermin is the biggest lie that's ever been told about. And by the way, I want to make sure that everyone gets this. When Jews become vermin, and therefore entities that require extermination, that affects the whole world. Anyone who wants to study the history of World War II knows that, yes, Hitler started with the Jews, but Hitler ended up killing a lot more than Jews. Yes, he killed 6 million Jews. He killed tens of millions of other people. And you know who he ended up killing the most? People in his own country, people in Germany. And I'm not here doing a thing for Germany and, you know, feel sorry for Germany because of, you know, what happened in the 30s and 40s. No, I'm not doing one of those things. I'm not trying to turn Germany into a victim, but I am telling you that fascists like Hitler and Putin, no matter who they want to turn their guns on, no matter who they want to propagandize against, they end up killing far more of their own. And right now, I don't care whose estimates you want to go to, far, far more Russians are being killed than Ukrainians, because fascists do not care about killing their own people. So the fascists can help you focus on whatever their favorite scapegoats are. But fascists end up killing their own people, and that's the story. And so when Tucker, pretends that Putin is somehow a good guy, he's saving people from evil people who are rat-like, like Zelensky. It's just, if you do any thinking about it at all, I was saying earlier in the discussion with Dean that what I try to do as much as possible when I'm reading or listening to people, I try to do some thinking. If I listen to someone for half an hour, I'll probably spend, if I take them seriously, I'll probably spend 4, 5, 6 hours thinking about what I heard before I go on the air. So yes, I will plead guilty to thinking about the things that we're talking about right now, several hours before we started taping. And that if someone thinks that's not authentic enough, sorry.
It is.
Sorry.
Yeah. How do you square that against our earlier conversation? Because what if this Elon Musk play, well, with Tucker Carlson on Twitter, what if that play is just about capitalism for both of them? And just bear with me just for a second. because we were talking about Saudi Arabia. Capitalism doesn't know morals. I get that part of it. Now we're talking about capitalism for Elon Musk, who has a gigafactory and a massive Tesla factory in China. So, he's trying to be friends with them or trying to show me he's friends. Same thing with Russia. So he puts on this show. This is where my mind is right now. He gets Tucker Carlson, comes on the show, and he's like, I'm going to pay you a bunch of money because what we're going to do is run some interference. That's what I see, and that's what I hear when I look at it. Earlier, we talked about capitalism not having morals. Is that not applicable here, or is it a different situation?
Well, here's the sort of distinction with the difference here.
Yeah,
let's say we took $200 million from the Saudi wealth fund. Okay.
By the way, I can't wait for that because I'm buying you a new car.
So I would not take the $200 million if I had to do what Tucker did last night. And I'm not saying that Elon Musk made him do it. That's not the point. But if the Saudis wanted me to spread their evangel, right? If the Saudis were giving us money because they wanted me to, talk up their prince, if they wanted me to talk up their version of Islam, in other words, if they wanted me to promote the Saudi religious / cultural agenda, if that's what the money, then I'd have no problem not taking the money. I've turned down all kinds of sewer money over the years for people who wanted me to do propaganda for them.
Have you really? Give me examples.
That hasn't been a problem at all because, as I say, there's this man who's with me at all times, and that's my dad. And now I have to say the memory of my dad, and my dad would find that unacceptable. So people who have wanted me to do anti-Semitism, racism, and a whole bunch of other isms, and offered me, I hate to use the word obscene and money in the same sentence, but I have to, obscene amounts of money to do, garbage, some of the kind of garbage that Tucker does. And I just had to turn it down because, by my way of thinking, if you don't turn down money to do those things, okay. In the previous conversation we talked about, we didn't talk about corrupting our own values. We just talked about being capitalists. But if you're willing to do that, okay, from my perspective, you're essentially somebody who's offering to go into a witness protection program.
Yeah.
So you're becoming somebody else. Now, in a witness protection program, you're becoming somebody else because you want to save yourself because you're about to pay some severe consequences for doing something good, in that you have been telling the truth, okay, about a bad guy, as it were. And so you're paying a price for that. You have to go into witness protection. Now, that's something you end up having to do because you were doing something good. What is my excuse for going into witness protection? What is my excuse for doing all sorts of trash and having to become somebody else just for the dough when I have a million ways of making dough without doing that? So I don't know if that's I tried to draw a distinction, with a difference there. And I don't know whether I've succeeded.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you make perfect sense to me, and that's why I was trying to talk to you about it because I know that there are a lot of people out there. Kind of leans into some things that we haven't talked about on the air, which you kind of brought up, but it leans into the idea that there are good intentions always when someone starts some kind of media play, and you and I both know, and you know this intimately. I know this intimately. You have been offered jobs to write garbage for a purpose that doesn't agree with you. You have been offered obscene amounts of money. I have been offered not as obscene amounts of money, but a lot of money to write things for people who do bad things to the Uyghurs. We have been offered all kinds of money. And it's funny because I think a lot of people don't think that it exists. I think a lot of people think that, these are just organizations that'll pay you to do some stuff. But it comes back to the same thing, which is what we kind of talked about, which is that capitalism bent, right? Which is, man, there are a lot of people out there that could use the money, that are really talented, that people will identify, groups, countries, individuals will identify and say, you know what? I need you to do something for me because I have someone that's willing to pay me a bunch of money because we need someone to write a narrative that is not real, that is not factual. We need you to do a favor for a community. We need you to be that person. We need you to write garbage for that person, podcast garbage for these people, and just poke holes in the other side. That's one of the big ones. It's like, yeah, when you do media, it's like, it's not about just supporting a narrative, as you saw with Tucker Carlson. That was about poking holes in the other side. And when you start doing that, you realize what his bent is. So that's what I'm trying to get at, that, we have, and I saw it yesterday with the Tucker Carlson thing, and I appreciate you bringing it up because, we've seen it, we've lived it, we've watched it. And so when I watch Tucker Carlson, I'm like, oh, that's the gig that Adler wouldn't do, or that's the gig that Blundell wouldn't do. Did you not? Because that's the feeling I got last night.
Well, I mean, when I watched Tucker from time to time on Fox, and remember, I had several cups of coffee at Fox, right? Did a whole bunch of guest hosting.
Did people still bug you about that because you were on
Fox
a
little
News?
Bit, a little bit. I get, oh, Charles, we didn't think it would. Yeah,
you filled in for Hannity. He's a total right wing cuck.
I filled in for a right wing. Imagine that I filled in for a right winger. Oh my God, how did you? Anyway, but without getting into too much of the private conversations that went on, I'll just put it this way: if I had chosen to go much farther to the right, if I had chosen to just kind of omit facts and to do what I would call, nicest thing I call is propaganda. If I had chosen to go down the propaganda road, Fox would have been very kind to my balance sheet. I'll leave it at that. I think everyone understands what I'm talking about. It wasn't like Fox didn't want me to go there because they didn't invite me into the tent, right, to be anything but that. They wanted to see how far I would take it. They encouraged me to, I mean, one term I can use this. One term was, Chuck, you're hitting home runs, but here's what we need you to do to hit grand slams. No, I'm sorry, not gonna go there. And some people, who are friends of mine who know my stuff, saying, why didn't you do that? I said, because I don't have to. Yeah, but if you wanted to be a star,
but what about the money?
It's always like, I haven't had. I grew up in a very, very poor family. Okay, it would be inaccurate to call them middle class. They were nothing close to middle class. Okay, but I always found ways as a kid to make money. Yeah. So the nicest way I can put it is, pawnbrokering. Okay, I accessed things, ashtrays, washing machines, furniture, legally, got them off people who are very, very wealthy, who I met because I was the delivery boy. I delivered, dry cleaning and tailored clothes for my dad up the hill to where the rich people lived. And I was able to access some of their stuff, sometimes even for free. I mean, it's just here, rich people have this habit of wanting to get rid of stuff. They want to get rid of their clothes. They want to get
perfectly good shit.
They want to get rid of their spouses. They want to get rid of their kids. There's all kinds of people that they want to get rid of.
Were you able to pick up any kids or spouses?
I'm just joking about that, folks.
How much for a spouse?
I didn't kidnap anyone. Okay, I didn't take anyone's wife or husband. I didn't do any of those things. Good. I just had someone pull up the truck. Yeah, because I didn't have a license when I was 8, 9 years old. Okay, so I'd had friends of mine, that pull up the truck, pull up the van, load it up with the washing machine, with the furniture, whatever. I just got a great price on it because these people go, hey, that's that cute little blonde-haired, blue-eyed son of a tailor, and he wants to get rid of the washing machine. No problem. Yeah. I mean, some of these washing machines, they were like over 2 years old. I mean, they were old, and so I would just get them into the garage. And I ended up having to have 4, 5, 6 garages, filling them up with this stuff. And then I'd have these garage sales, and people who were, working class or lower middle class, who couldn't afford any of this stuff new. Well, none of it was new, but it was in good condition, hardly used. And I would, sell the stuff. So I could pick up a washing machine for $65 and sell it for, $100. That's $35 of profit. Mm-hmm. Do people benefit from it? Of course, because they're getting something for $100. People who are buying it for $100, they're getting it, much, much cheaper than they would have to pay if they were buying it on the regular used market. So to me, that was what in capitalism we would call a win-win-win-win. Anyway, since I was doing that as a young boy, I had no needs for money. I was able to help the family, and that was my motivation. But I'm only giving you that as an example.
Doing what you have to do, right?
Yeah, I don't need to hit grand slams for some propaganda organization to make a living. Now, if my ego, and this is, I think, where some of these conversations end up going.
Yeah.
If my ego absolutely required that I sit in the Tucker chair or Sean's chair, that if that was something that I absolutely had to have, it's got nothing to do with the money. My ego requires that I sit there in Manhattan or Long Island or whatever, but I sit there in the belly of the Fox beast. If that's what absolutely mattered to me more than anything else, well, I would have done that.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I have the benefit of knowing you a little bit, obviously, and so I don't think a lot of people will listen to the story about how you walked away from Fox and walked away from the dream job, walked away from a lot of money, not just that, but other opportunities. When you say stuff like, "Hey, listen, I'm about capitalism," you're about capitalism with a reason, right? Like that's the difference, and it's very difficult now, specifically in the media space. Like watching Tucker, I was like, man, I wouldn't be able to paint my soul with enough white paint after that. Like I just couldn't do it. And we are not desperate people, obviously. We're in beautiful Portugal. We've got a ton of clients. We're working with Benfica, maybe one of the greatest soccer brands in the world. We've got a digital collectible company. We're rolling this into some other business. We've got announcements to make. That came the hard way too, right? But it would have been really easy for us to say to this gentleman who speaks on behalf of a group that lives in the Far East, hey, we'll give you a bunch of money. Just write some subjective stuff for us. Write some things for us. And I remember saying to one of the guys who tried to get us to do these articles, try to get us to do some of this content. And I remember saying to him, I have to sleep with myself at the end of every night. Like I have to sit there and I have to say, what did you do? Because if you do something that goes against your values, that's not a sin, really. It's just this fucking kills your soul, right? Like it just destroys me. I'm that guy who stole a Mars bar in the 6th grade and went crying into my room's mom at like 1:00 in the morning, asking her if I was going to go to heaven because I stole something. Like that's literally my entire being, right? So when it comes down to this kind of stuff, when it comes down to the job that you do, it doesn't make a lot of financial sense for you to say no to something that's going to pay you a bunch of money if you have to sleep with yourself at night. And I say this to people in this game all the time. You can do whatever. You can get paid to do whatever. Like the age of news from a news organization, it's totally gone. We have people that get paid to deliver something that looks like news, but it's just rage farming or it's just influence baiting or it's just reputation destroying. And that's the whole goal. And it's been happening this whole time. It's been happening as long as you've been in media, as long as I've been in media. You've been in media a long time, way longer time than I. But what really is incredible is this added advantage of us being able to do this, right? Yeah. To be able to have this conversation. But it works the other way too, which really sucks sometimes.
Yeah, you're not suggesting that we have been associated with people who sell a lot of crap. You would never.
A little bit.
let me get serious for just a moment.
Yeah, please, okay? Please. Yeah.
One of the reasons that you make the decisions that you make not to take what I call the sewer money, is because you've got sons. Okay, and we've never discussed this before, but I know that you want your sons to think of you, especially after you pass. That's why I will preface this with it's going to be a bit serious, but I think that you want your sons to think of you, especially after you pass, the way I think of Mike Adler. Mm-hmm. I think every father would want their kids to think of them the way I think of my father. And the only way that you've got a shot at Mike Adler's status is to turn down the sewer money. Mm. So if anyone ever wants to know, just get a very short answer on why I turned it down and why other people turn it down, it's because I have some sense of what it's like to love somebody forever. And I want mine to love me as much as I love Mike Adler. And if I'm out of line, if I've crossed the line, if if I have no right to go there with you,
You're
then
crushing it, dude. You're
Okay.
100% right. Yeah.
All right. And those things, and that has nothing to do with podcasting or broadcasting, nothing to do with capitalism, nothing to do with any of the things that we've talked about, nothing to do with what's in the news, whether it's real or not.
Mhm.
That is life. That is going right to the marrow of the bone. And when we talk about communications, the reason that some of us have done not too badly in communications is we know where the bone is and we know where the marrow is, and we'll go there for you. Some other people might not want to go there. Some other people, they might just not see it as clearly as my Crier Media tycoon partner sees it. But I am grateful for everyone who's watching or listening right now for one simple reason. You appreciate what it is that we're doing. You appreciate what it is that we're doing with you and what it is that we're doing for you. I never want for anyone who is using this product, this podcast, I never want anyone to think that we're not thinking about you 100% of the time. Everything we do is customer service. Nothing that we do is propaganda for the sewer money.
Charles Adler, ladies and gentlemen, at Charles Adler on Twitter is where you can find him. And that is why I am incredibly proud to be working with Charles Adler, because that is going to be the tenor of Crier Media going forward. Will we entertain while we do it? You're goddamn right we will.
We better entertain, because as I said earlier, when we talk about the hockey night business, if you're just explaining and you're not entertaining, kid, this is a hockey stick. if this is a spoon. Okay.
You eat with it.
I was, by the way, just so everyone's clear, because we are always, drawing suspicion. I was eating oatmeal with the spoon.
Oh, congratulations. You're into the oatmeal.
There were there were no opioids in that spoon. You can come in, bring in your best equipment. Bring it, buddy. Bring it, buddy. Check out this spoon. It's clean.
There's no dark marks underneath it, too. It looks like a clean spoon. That was Portugal, 82, dude.
It was all right. So just so everyone understands, how clean this shower is.
Yeah, it's very true. Charles, thank you for doing this. I am very much looking to the launch of your podcast. Do you know when that's happening? Have you and your EVP decided? You and your friend Matt Kundle? When are we pumping this baby out?
Whenever they want to squeeze my orange, I'm good. Just tell the juice will flow, okay? And if for whatever reason it gets put off, because who knows why, and you just want to come on with me, every few days for whatever it is you do. By the way, I mean there were certain things we did. We actually had a prep session a few hours ago. We talked about some of the things. So weren't we also going to talk about Sonny and Cher and the Sumerians inventing the wheel? Or was that somebody else?
No, that was someone else. Dude, you're like the king of guesting on podcasts now, so you got to get your shit straight. Because if you started talking about the Sumerians and Sonny and Cher on the show, I'd be like, oh my God, what's happening to Adler? He's losing it.
Kids, this is a wheel. or a bowl or something.
That's a bowl.
Anyway, the Sumerians invented this bowl. Kids.
No, they didn't invent the bowl. Charles, you have a wonderful day. Really grateful to get a chance to touch base with you. Your podcast is coming soon. Go to crier.co for more details. The Charles Adler podcast. And I loved how you ambushed your first guest. That was awesome.
Well, Ryan Jesperson is someone that I do podcasts with on Mondays. And Ryan Jesperson is someone who needs to get involved with the tycoons at Crier. Okay. Ryan's also pro-capitalist. We're not talking about the sewer money. Ryan doesn't want to take the sewer. Ryan has also been offered a lot of sewer. And Ryan's also turned down the sewer money. So Ryan, we're not talking about the sewer money here. We're just talking about you getting a little more involved. With us, we'll get a little more involved with you, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's the way business flows. And so the way I secured Ryan for Crier is when Ryan said, Chuck, we know you got a podcast you're going to be launching and want to wish you good luck and all of that. I said, Ryan, I want you to be my first guest.
But live on the cast. You did it live.
No, well, yeah, we've seen the Glengarry Glen Ross always be closing, always be closing. I wanted to close. I wanted to close a great guest, and I wanted to, do a little bit of
Well,
merger
dude,
and
you
acquisition
don't
stuff.
give a guy. Well, you did a merger and acquisition, but you
A little merger,
ambushed it and you gave him
just a
no
little,
outs.
yeah, just a spoonful of merger and acquisition, and he took the bait.
Yeah. We'll welcome him to Crier Media very soon.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch it. It was absolutely hilarious because with you on your podcast with him, I watched the clip after we talked this afternoon and you told me about it. And I'm like, I'm going to go watch that shit.
Yeah.
And I started watching it. I'm like, he did ambush Ryan Jesperson. You literally said, hey, dude, you're coming on the show whether you like it or not. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'm in. I'm totally.
Always be closing.
And
always be telling stories and never go, kid, this is a stick. Don't do that. It worked. It worked for some people for what doesn't work anymore.
No. And tell stories. Charles, great to see you. I'll let you go. I know you got a busy day. I got to head down and meet people for some fish. We're doing fish tonight. We're doing fish with the Clancy World crew. And if you haven't had fish, and I had fish this afternoon, I'm going to have it again, and I can't stand fish. It's very different in Portugal. And I will remember this, and I will report completely back to you because I do not drink anymore. So, which, by the way, I really miss when I'm in Portugal because the wine here apparently is awesome.
Yeah, not everything that you think is fish, but we'll save that for another day.
Charles Adler, ladies and gentlemen. Charles. Oh my God.